Yes, I mentioned in the previous videos that you can maybe consider religion as not incompatible with science, and even maybe complementary. And in this video, I was saying maybe religion, uh, maybe science needs religion or some moral compass, so to guide it not to use science for nefarious purposes, either intentional or unintentional. In two areas, at least, that it can be, and it's getting more and more persuasive, more evasive, or more common, is in biological engineering, genetic engineering. You can now change the DNA of plants, and that's been going on for quite a while. And of course, DNA changes from natural problems as well, natural events as well. But to directly change it, well, that's been happening for a while too. And now it's being used for animals as well. And the question is, should we use it for humans? Well, you could say that if we can eliminate generic diseases, maybe it should be used. Change your DNA so you will not have some of the genetic diseases. But how far should you go? Now we do have, with telecommunications, enables bad players to use their telecommunications to monitor everything that humans do. And one of the worst offenders would be China. Well, actually, North Vietnam, but China. They have a group of people that they don't conform to the rest of the ruling group, the communists. They're the Uyghurs, and they're in in a fairly large province actually, and they've incarcerated or put them in concentration camps 1 million of the 7 or 8 million people. They say they're just doing it for retraining because they don't conform to the correct thoughts of the ruling party. So the thought police can round them up and retrain them. And they take their kids away from them and give them proper education for retraining to become, have the right thoughts. And China is an totalitarian dictatorship. Why do I say that? They have all the trademarks. One, there's only one party, so there's no opposition. They can pretty well do what they want. Unlike in democracy, even if you don't like the two parties, you can at least switch them back and forth. So they have to more or less at least try to look after their population. China, no, they can of course. The main thing, of course, they want is to keep in power. And there's only one person now in charge of the Communist Party, and he's just declared he wants to be there for the rest of his life. So it's a one party, one person actually, rule like a dictatorship. And also they, as I say, they have their ideology, or you must conform with their thought, their ideology. And anyone that doesn't has to be retrained, like the Uyghurs. And that's two things. Third thing is they control the media. So they don't allow any independent news or independent journalism. Whereas in a democracy, it's actually the journalist's duty, if it's a good journalist, is to question the authority, to question the people in power, to keep them accountable. There's no such thing in China. And also the justice system, they can arrest anybody they want. And they're doing that with Canada, with two trumped up charges for two people they're putting in under custody. And there's no independent, there's no justice system at all, let alone being independent. What they say goes, and 90% of the people they arrest are found guilty. And no one is there to take up and try to prove their innocence. They don't have a judicial system like we do in the democracies. And they can control the police. There's no independent police departments. So if they don't like some group of people, they don't have the correct thoughts, they can just go, the thought police can go and just arrest them. And the telecommunications they use now is so powerful, the 5G network, that they can even recognize the face of individuals. Now the rest of the Uyghur population, they have given identity cards, which they can track with their computers and telecommunications, and they can't do anything, even go to the washroom, unless without them being monitored. So here, I would say, is where science and technology is being misused to keep to keep these people in power. Now, the Hong Kong, for instance, they are protesting vigorously because they don't want to be ruled by the main Chinese, the communists, their justice system. That's what they're objecting to. Anyway, so the West is not standing up to China, but at least some of their own citizens are, because they know what's in store for them if they have to abide by the Chinese authorities and their judicial system, if you can call it that. Now, as I say, one step further, rather than just control their thoughts, why don't the group in power use genetic engineering to change anyone that doesn't conform to their identity, period, let alone their thoughts? And don't kid yourself, maybe China won't do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if North Korea doesn't do it. North Korea exists because China allows it to exist. And they have a system which is criminal. First of all, they make all their citizens treat their leader as I idealize them, as an idol. They actually starve their citizens so they won't have any other thoughts other than how to get the next meal. Some of them have to find grasshoppers to eat. And they keep their citizens in the dark. If you take a photograph, if you look at the photograph of Asia at night, you'll see virtually no lights in North Korea, except one spot where the rulers are. And the only way that they get out of the country is if they are sold as slaves to China or other countries. There's only been 400 or so in the last 70 years that have managed to escape into, say, the United States. And then if they try to escape, of course, their relatives will be arrested, and who knows what will happen to them. So here's an example of a totalitarian state which happens when there is no independent or anyone to hold the rulers in check. No freedom of speech, and this is the cornerstone of democracies. Without a freedom of speech, if you can't allow, if they can stop you from talking, of course they stop you, like in China, from saying anything against those in power. So freedom of speech is instrumental or some very important for democracies. Otherwise, it wouldn't be long until perhaps we become a totalitarian state. So, although their own citizens, Hong Kong, are objecting to China, democracies should also be, in my opinion, should be getting together and making China conform to the rules of the other countries. If not democracy, and then at least abide by the trade rules and the human laws, human rights of other countries. And they do not. And they have no intention of doing otherwise. So here's an example then that science and technology in the future is now right now, but in the future it can even be more used nefariously. So there's two examples. Of course, with every beneficial scientific discovery, you could also say, well, it can be used for harm. For instance, even Einstein's second law or general theory of relativity. Well, that is why we know that E equals mc squared, and we can produce bombs. And now maybe we need bombs to stop dictators, but you can't not argue that it's very harmful. We'd be better off with sticks than with nuclear bombs if we have to fight people. But you can't stop progress, I suppose. So I'm sure you can think of other examples too where you have to be, and so religion, most religious people at least, with religious thought, say you shouldn't do anything that harms other people. Do unto others as you do to yourself. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. So we need something, moral compass for society, really, and for science to put a curb on harmful uses of science. So science can be somewhat compatible if we use religion as a spirituality, something that exists over and above your own self in the physical. It'd be complementary because it can complement science that doesn't know how the universe started and doesn't know a lot of other things, and also it is really in the dark for 95% of the universe, and in the 5%, it has two theories that cannot even that are incompatible. And thinking of the dark energy, well, they're out by 10 to the 120th. So you cannot really, in all honesty, say that science has the answer to how you got here and the answer for many of the fundamental questions. So, if religion does, most religions do tell you that there is something or someone that is responsible. And even science says, you need before in quantum mechanics, before you can change waves into particles, you need something there that observes or measures the light, that measures the waves. So this is the end of the science and religion, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.